You were a mistake. Making a baby is not the same as taking a test, where you can get some of the answers wrong. Sure, you probably didn't intend on getting pregnant, but that's what you get when you have unprotected sex. And that's not a mistake you should be pinning on a child. So when a parent says you were a mistake, it's like you're getting told your existence was never wanted. It's not the same as hearing, "Whoops, I spilled milk." There's a big difference between the two, because one needs a paper towel and the other one needs tissues for all those tears. Getting told you were a mistake feels like an accidental email that went to the wrong inbox. That's because you never asked to be here, but now it seems like you need to apologize for existing. Some parents say the truth helps with character building, but it's more like a character demolition. Even if some parents would chalk it up as a joke, that's not a laughing matter to some kids, because children aren't built with sarcasm and punchline detectors. If they hear something like this, they will file it right under the "I might be the problem" drawer in their brains. This can cause serious psychological problems that can last a lifetime. You'll never be good enough. This might be one of the common things you hear in an overachieving Asian household with parents who think an A means average, but in most places, getting told you're not good enough hits like a hammer. The one thing this statement does is it crushes your confidence, like a bulldozer crushing a sandcastle. You could work your way to the top of your industry and train hard enough to take on LeBron James in a one-on-one game, but when it's time to hit that game-winning shot, you'll hear your mom's voice telling you you'll never be enough. This causes you to freeze up and hit an airball. So this will make you start seeing every success and win as a fluke. Meanwhile, every failure is evidence that your parents were right. And when you get one thing right, it will feel worthy of a parade, because victories seem as rare as the Loch Ness Monster. You won't even try hard enough to do your best when you know your effort gets slammed harder than a rebellious teenager slamming a door. What happens is you avoid putting effort into anything. You'll probably play it safe, believing a participation medal is just as good as a gold medal. And it's all because you're now the champion of low expectations. Meanwhile, you'll end up thinking love has terms and conditions, longer than a lease contract. That's when you start attracting people who treat you like expired yogurt, and you stay because you think that's normal. Your self-worth becomes a clearance item no one wants. Why can't you be more like your sibling? Imagine having two pets, a dog and a cat. The cat is kind of mischievous and isn't as playful and affectionate as the dog. One day you get fed up with its behavior and tell it to act more like your dog. Well, that's what it's like when your parent asks why you can't be more like your sibling. The thing here is that just like how cats and dogs are built differently, people also have different personalities, strengths, and weaknesses. You can't tell a dog to meow because that's just as ridiculous as telling a cat to fetch. So when your parents tell you to be more like your sibling, you stop being you and start being a knockoff brand of someone else. This kind of line hurts your feelings and squashes your self-worth, because nothing you do will ever be enough. Suddenly, winning a silver medal in the Olympics might as well feel like you lost in the first round when your parents can't stop comparing you to a sibling who's won just as many medals as Michael Phelps. You start wondering if your hobbies are useless, and if you should have just joined the chess club after all. It eventually turns your home into a strange reality show called Who is Raised Better? You stop seeing your sibling as someone to share snacks and play with. Instead, they're now the competition you need to bring down to win the ultimate prize, which is your parents' affection. And when you can't match what your sibling has done, family dinners will now turn into highlight reel moments of everything they did right, while you sit right there holding your participation award for being a good potato. You're too sensitive. When a parent says you're too sensitive, that's the equivalent of pushing the shush button to quiet you down. But it's not like they're doing that to help you or make you realize you need to have the emotional strength of a rock. It's more like they're telling you your feelings are far too inconvenient for them. That phrase turns your emotions into the villain of the story. For them, you're not reacting to something hurtful. Instead, they're trying to make you look like you're made of bubble wrap and tears. What this does is it makes you second-guess your feelings. In most cases, this is what your folks do if they want to dodge responsibilities with your feelings. They're not willing to treat parenthood as a full-time job, where part of the job description means they should be your emotional foundation. But when a parent tells you you're too sensitive, it's your fault for feeling sad. So if they tell you something hurtful enough to make you bleed emotionally, it's somehow your fault for having skin that's a bit too thin to handle the pricking. You ruined my life. Let's say the house is burning because you left your toaster on and unplugged for hours, but instead of blaming the fiasco on your mistake, you blame your toaster. That's kind of like how things are when a parent tells their child they ruined their life. You didn't invent bad days, crash the stock market, or start World War III, but your parent acts as if you're to blame for everything wrong that happened in their life because you were born. The problem here is that they're playing a game of emotional dodgeball where you're the target, but you were never born to be the magic glue that could help piece your parents' broken pieces together. So if they regret not traveling to Paris because they had a kid, that's on them. You're not the buzzkill in this story because you just happened to be the accidental roommate who showed up in diapers. Basically, when a parent tells you that you ruined their life, that's emotional guilt in action. It's like a pizza that's extra cheesy and loaded with regret and blame. Parents saying this are handing you their broken dreams, like it's your bedtime snack. And you're left trying to digest all that while doing your math homework and wondering why it's your fault that mom didn't become a doctor. But the biggest issue here is that it's often said in a moment of stress. For parents, it's like letting the steam out. But for their kids, those words stick, like glitter on a carpet. They're hard to get out even if you could vacuum for years. This could cause emotional trauma and the feeling of not being wanted. And you could end up tiptoeing your way through everyone, hoping that breathing doesn't cause their lives to spiral into chaos. You're the reason we got divorced. Marriages are between two people instead of three. That means that when something in the marriage gets messed up, it's because of the choices made by the two people in the marriage. So when a parent tells you you're the reason your parents got divorced, that's like saying you were the lighter that burned the marriage down to ash. But that's just blame shifting in action. Sure, you made a few mistakes, spilled a few things, and screamed in public as a toddler, but you didn't light the match that destroyed your parents' marriage. You were just a kid instead of a relationship wrecking ball, so unless you filed the divorce paperwork yourself, the blame doesn't go on you. Some parents think it's their way of disciplining their kids and forcing them to realize that their actions can affect other people. But it's emotional fast food that's quick, greasy, and guaranteed to pile up and cause damage in the future. It's a parent's way of tossing guilt your way, hoping you'd catch it. But the thing about divorce is that it happens when two people decide they're better off apart. That's not on a kid. If parents can't agree on what paint color to use for the living room renovation, it's not you or your box of colorful crayons that triggered this argument. You might have added chaos, but you didn't create the emotional iceberg that caused this ship to sink. No one will ever love you like I do. You might have heard this line from your favorite Hallmark movies, where a parent or a lover tells a kid or their partner that no one will ever love them like they do. On the surface, it sounds like the sweetest thing anyone could ever say, but under that syrupy glaze is a threat wearing a disguise. It's basically their way of putting emotional glue on you by making you think this is the best version of love anyone could ever give. This phrase is like emotional spam mail because it's full of hidden traps. It doesn't just say they love you, instead it's as if they've copyrighted love, and anyone else trying it is a cheap knockoff. Basically, they're saying future affection is a bootleg DVD that could never have the same quality as their love for you. If you ever try to say no or set a boundary, this line usually jumps out from a parent. Suddenly, you're not just setting limits, but betraying the family legacy. It turns love into a loyalty program with zero rewards. This kind of message trains you to accept love with conditions, like a coupon that only works if you follow crazy instructions. You grow up thinking love must be earned by shrinking yourself to fit someone else's idea of lovable. That's why you chase someone's approval, but always fail in that pursuit. It turns future relationships into auditions, where you're always measuring your own affection like it's part of some emotional checklist. Trusting someone who cares feels unnatural because you were taught to love by a completely different rulebook. Boys don't cry, stop being a girl. Nothing says being manly than having tear ducts that haven't shed a single tear since you were a toddler. At least that's what some parents think when telling their boys they should never cry because crying is only for girls. This is basically a parent handing a child an emotional backpack filled with bricks. It's a sentence that tries to stuff toxic masculinity into casual sexism. So basically, it's a bad 2-for-1 deal you can buy from the worst parenting store ever. If you grow up hearing that, you start thinking emotions are illegal. Crying feels like getting 1,000 points deducted from your testosterone points. It's like emotions are a secret club you're not cool enough to join unless you hand over your male membership card and move to the girls section of the emotional spectrum. What makes it worse is that it's a double-decker insult sandwich because it shames boys for showing emotion and girls for existing. This could end up making boys fear softness. Meanwhile, girls are now painted as soft and easy to break. That's possibly the simplest way you could teach a young boy how to be sexist without making it look like it's sexism. You're fat and lazy. Yes, junk food can turn you into a fat and lazy slob, especially if you overdo that stuff, but emotional junk food is worse, especially when it comes from a parent. And one of the most hurtful things a parent can tell their child is that they're fat and lazy. This usually happens when a child is just chilling and minding their own business, forgetting they have chores to do. It also happens when children don't understand how calories work and how candy bars and McDonald's are the biggest weight gain culprits. Of course, no one wants to be fat and lazy, but no kid wants their parent slapping those words right in their face. It's like fixing a flat tire by yelling at it. It doesn't get you moving, but only makes you feel more deflated. So instead of waking up one day and deciding to go on an early morning run, you just hang out in your room after 12 hours of sleep, unable to process your feelings. That's because getting insulted by a parent turns motivation into a sad puddle of shame and potato chips. Sometimes it's more about being exhausted from life, school, and surviving, instead of being fat and lazy. The problem is that parents think you're still lazy even if you just mind your own business while charging your battery. And their only solution here is to say believing tough love can motivate your body into burning more calories and finding French fries unappealing. Another problem here is that it also turns food into the enemy, because some kids may start to think that they should avoid eating if they don't want their parents insulting them. Every snack will feel like a crime because you don't want to become your parents' emotional punching bag. This is why some kids grow up with eating disorders. Sure, they lose weight, but it's at the cost of their health and sanity. You owe me for everything. You just turned 18, and the birthday gift you get from your parents is not a new car or keys to a new apartment. You're not even getting a new pair of socks. Instead, they hand you a bill for 18 years of your life with a note that says, "You owe me for everything." It's like they kept a tab for every expense they had the moment you were born. Parenting isn't a part-time job with tips, but a full-time job that doesn't come with a receipt. When parents treat love like a loan, you start to feel like you're racking up interest every time you ask for a sandwich. Imagine owing someone because they kept you alive. That's a subscription plan with guilt. This can cause you to grow up thinking love should always come with a price because of how it deflates your self-worth. That's why you start overdoing stuff to avoid the guilt boomerang from hitting you. Eventually, you're helping everyone else while your own dreams gather dust, like that treadmill nobody uses. Suddenly, they're shifting the responsibility to you because they raised you for 18 years. They're basically swapping roles with you. In a way, they act like you're their retirement plan, financial planner, and therapist. They want you to fix their life because they fixed your baby teeth. Meanwhile, when you try saying no to your parents when they ask you a favor, you'll learn the hard way that it's a boundary bulldozer. You're suddenly the family's black sheep. You can't even move out of the house without triggering a scene more dramatic than a Mexican telenovela. But in the end, this is simply emotional manipulation from parents who want to direct your life like a GPS. They want to reroute your dreams to match their expectations. That's why some kids end up in careers they hate or living in houses they didn't pick. At worst, they may even marry people they never loved, but came with their parents' approval.